today we're constructing Simplicity 8660. We're making this cute little kids t-shirt. We're doing view A in an apricot cotton jersey. We've cut it out in a size 1 and it's going to go underneath a cute little overalls. Not this one here, but we're going to give that one a go soon. So today I'm using a 4-thread overlocker to construct the t-shirt. And I thought this was a quick little project to show you about how you can put it together. So what we're looking for is the right sides of the fabric that we're going to put together. So on a knit fabric, you'll see that there's 2 sides. One, the right side, has these tiny little, it's a knit, V's on it. It's a stocking stitch. And on the back side is the purl side, so it's got the tiny little loops going round and round. So we want to put our right sides together. So the V part of the back and the front. So I'm going to put the right side together and I'm going to join across the shoulder section here first. So because the seam allowance in this pattern is 1.5, but the chain of my overlocker is a little bit over 1, I'm going to actively cut off part of the seam allowance here and let it fall down my chute. This doesn't need to be done on an industrial overlocker, it just happens that that's what I'm using today, but a 4-thread is great for knits. So now I've got my shoulder seams done. I'm going to use an open method where I'm going to lay out my bodice like this, and I'm going to insert the sleeve seam next. So I'm going to take my sleeves, little sleeves over here, and I'm going to match up the notches. Wrong one. So I've got my back notch is the double one and my front notch is the single, and I've got my little clips happening here, so I know that this one is my shoulder set, the head of my shoulder, and they're going to match up around here. I know that when I'm sewing, I want to put the curved piece down on the base of the machine. So that in this case is my shoulder of the sleeve. So I'm going to put that down, and I'm going to, you'll see I'm not using any pins. So this is a good sewing challenge if you've been sewing for a little while. I'm going to focus on starting from here to my first notch is the focus of where I want to be sewing. Once I've got to that first notch, I'm going to come up to the nick in the sleeve. Once I've reached that point, my next focus is the shoulder seam, and I'm just looking at which is the front of this t-shirt and which is the back, because I want my shoulder seams to be going towards the back. You can see I'm moving the fabric around here to line up, focusing towards that next notch. Going down to the next section. You can see there's quite a bit of movement in this fabric, so I'm just focused on the section that's in front of me next. Coming at the end, giving it a snip. So now I've got my shoulder seam in. Going to do the same to the other side. So I'm going to pick up my sleeve, match the right sides together. Starting with the sleeve on the base of the machine because that's the curve. Coming around. You'll see that I'm not doing it all in one stitch line, but I'm doing it in little taps with my foot. So my foot on the pedal is going tap, 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 so I'm getting little distances of stitching instead of trying to achieve one long line where I might be out of control. Again, checking which way my seam needs to go. So now if I lay my little body out, it's got a front, a back, and 2 sleeves. The reason that I've done this t-shirt in this way is that the sleeves are easy to put in when the bodice is in the flat instead of inserting them in the round. And you'll see the next step what I'm going to do in terms of the side seams, and it's all going to work out. So what I now do is I take my bodice and I'm going to do the side seams. So finished, it's going to look like this. I'm going to do down my side seams now. So starting at the underarm of the sleeve. The first goal is from the sleeve hem to the underarm point. So I'm going to just line up those seams now. Again, cutting off a little bit because I want to make it the correct size. So that's for a little human, so she's got room to grow. Down. At this point here, it is a bit of a, I am sewing into a corner, so I'm just straightening out my seam and aiming for my next notch. Coming all the way down to the hem, lining that up, and checking that it's flat in between. Wonderful. So you can see that's the first seam I've done down this side, and I'm going to go down the other side next. Now, I also want to start from the underarm seam here, so I'm going to turn her around, line up the seam, start stitching. Down to the hem, and off the ends. Snipping off my excess parts. And now I've got a little bodice. The next stage is the neckband here, so that's being pre-cut. It's in the same fabric as the body. Some patterns use a rib instead, but for this one we've got ones that match. So I'm going to join it in the round. This gets folded in half. You can give this a press with the iron. The cotton will press up quite nicely and hold its shape. So you see here there's notches in the band. So these are going to line up with my shoulder seams, and there's one for the center front here too. So I've got I'm not going to cut a nick in this center front this time because I can see a nice clean fold from where the fabric's going to be, but that will press out in the end. So for this one, I'm going to start at the center back here, placing it on. Now the neckband will be slightly smaller than the body. That's because we want the neckband to pull into the neck, not to be flailing out. So I am expecting to have to pull the neck slightly to get it to match up. And I'm going in the round. So popping it in underneath. This can look quite fiddly. So my first aim is to get that point onto the side shoulder seam. You can see here I am giving it a bit of a stretch to make them match up. That's okay, that's one of the advantages and one of the skills we need to use when we're working with knits. Front, doing the fold up to the shoulder seam again. All the way around, so I'm going to go back over the section that I started with, up the ends. come on there now. So that's what she looks like from the inside, and I'll give this a press with the iron in a little moment, but she's looking nice and neat. I'm happy with how these two have come together. It's sitting naturally quite well, and just do see a little bit of a roll here, but like I said, that will come out in the pressing. So she's all come together now. I don't use this machine as a cover stitch, so I will be finishing these hems off on a domestic machine with a stretch stitch. So I will be overlocking these hems to finish them off, but that's up to you of how you'd like to finish those off. You might have another trick up your sleeve you like to use. So I'm going to go just around the hem. I'm overlocking from the right side of the fabric here and just letting the fabric feed through naturally, making sure that my seams are going towards my center back. Overlapping here and coming off the edge. I'm going to do the same around her sleeve. So again, the seam going towards the back. Sleeve, so just go around slowly, coming across the overlocking that I started out, and then off the edge, snipping off her thread, and then her other sleeve, seam towards the back. I'm not worried about cutting. I'm cutting off a smidgen in some areas here, but I'm not worried about cutting any excess fabric off when I do this seam, this overlocking for the hem. Because it's just going to fold up in place. The hem's already been justified. The amount needs to be turned up. Coming around to the edge. And off. Here she is. We'll turn her through. So here's the cute little t-shirt. What I'm now going to do is go and press up this seam and stitch it on my domestic machine. But that's how you construct a t-shirt on the 4-thread overlocker. Can't wait to see your version.